here. I'll let you handle the clip. Hi, thanks to everyone for coming out. I wrote Brittany a few days ago, and I was like, I went to Creative Collaborative 4 years ago or more, and there were like 20 people there, just a few blocks away from here with Big Cartel, and I kind of thought, I was like, oh, it probably has grown since then. Then I got really nervous, and this is why all of you guys are here. It's so awesome that it's grown this much, and it totally inspired us in our early days as well. So I'm so glad that it's still going and has grown this much. Of course, when Allison comes in, you have to personally wave to the Allison show when she comes in the room. I wanted to start. We're just going to start by giving a little bit of our background, and then Jared and I have different roles in the company, and that's kind of how we've made it working together. Is we have pretty distinct things that we do. Jared handles a lot of the financials and strategy and like metrics, analytics, and I'm more on the marketing and creative side. And of course, that all overlaps, and we work together on a ton of it. But we're happiest with each other when we have like our own spheres kind of going. Like she said, she pretty much gave our brand story, which is we were living in Salt Lake City. He was in school, and I was blogging at the time, but blogging and sewing, and I made this wrap for my second baby. And I honestly didn't know that I'd done anything differently. I thought I was just being cheap, and by making my own. But I really love fabrics from the going to LA and just scouring the fabric district. And my friends, so I had a lot of good knits on hand. And my friends were like, hey, I think that you've done something different. Have you used any other wrap? And I was like, no, I don't know. And I just had friends asking for them, and so I started making them. And I really thought in the beginning that I would take a more, not traditional route, but more of like a handmade local boutique approach to it. And so we started going to shows and to little craft fairs and stuff like that, and we couldn't give them away. Nobody wanted them. And then I realized once I realized I knew all these bloggers that were having babies, and really at that time people they were just starting to work and collaborate with social media like figures to promote their businesses. And so instead of going, but even then it was like mommy review sites and stuff like that. It wasn't like going to a fashion blogger and having her review your baby gear. But I thought that was kind of a fresh approach to it. And rather than traditional baby gear, it was kind of an accessory that really comfortably held your baby. And so once we did that, it took off from there. And hasn't been easy since then, but I found where our community was. And since then, I feel like it's really just been honing in our community, carving them out in that niche there, and finding them, which is great because you can only reach so many people where you live. So, and then Jared, he finished school and he was working with all these other startups, and I was a startup, and he wasn't working with me, probably to preserve our marriage, but I was like going to have a total breakdown. I did have a few, actually. And finally, I was like, please, I need help. Please work with me. This is making money. These other startups aren't making money. I'm making money, and kind of making money. And so he came on board, and really it took like a solid year, maybe even 18 months, until it was like, this is your role, and this is my role.
I started out, she sent me down into the garage, and I was the one that put all the boxes together. That's how I came into the business.
You got to start somewhere, okay?
I had to work my way up.
It was a pretty fast climb to CFO, I'd say, but anyway, so that's kind of the background of where we are, but we're going to each talk about a little bit more of our specific roles and give we really want the takeaway tonight for everyone to feel not impressed by us, but just inspired about your own project, and hopefully there are a few takeaways that you can apply today to whatever you're working on creatively. And we're going to start with Jared.
My stuff.
Yeah, you go.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Can you? Okay, I can't hear myself, so I don't know if anyone else can hear it. One story that's not related to the analytics, but I like it a lot, and so I'm going to share it, is, and it goes along with our starting up, about the same time that I got on to make the boxes in the basement, in the dark.
Watching surf videos all day?
That's
Like,
true.
that
I
was
did
that
catch a lot
hard?
of Netflix while I did it. But we were putting all of our wraps inside of clear plastic bags and then sending them out, and it was the cheapest thing that we could find. And then we decided it's time to upgrade and get real boxes. And so we called around to different packaging makers, and Elle did this. Elle was the one that did all the work on this, and they got back with her, and they were quoting us just these prices.
Like $10 a box.
$10 a box, stuff like that, which I don't know if that's realistic or not anymore. But and so we're so frustrated because there's no way we could have done that. And so
Like, great, we're always going to send our wraps out in plastic bags.
yeah. It would have been fine maybe, but
Yeah.
it was interesting because then we got with a designer who we still are using, and she whipped up kind of a design for our package. And then my brother, he does Rolly press, and so he had a letter press that he would do, and he got on it and added some little details and made it so that we could put the box together, just where it would be two separate pieces, and then we'd be able to put it together. But it's crazy how a little thing like that changed the whole game for us, because our price then was 1,000% cheaper, roughly, or something. It was like this huge amount where it was ridiculously cheaper than what we had originally been quoted. So we were able to do that, and the packaging, it's the same stuff that we still use. We have it foil stamped now instead of letterpress, because the letterpress I was able to do to myself is on a Vandercook, and you have to roll it back and forth, and it got to the point. Yeah, it got to the point where I was standing up for hours, just rolling this thing back and forth, trying to make it work. And then we're like, we got to try something else. So the foil stamping has saved my back. But anyway, so let me get started. Do you want to just, the remote wasn't working, so just push the button. Okay, so how many of you are familiar with the book Lean Startup, or the ideas of that? Okay, so a few of you. So that has played a big role in the stuff that I do. I really, I read that, and it made sense to me, and there was a lot of stuff in it where I thought, wow, this is something that we need to be applying, because we're a small business, and we're trying to do it as debt-free as possible, and that book teaches you how to do it. So the basic premise of the book is that I don't remember. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to start with the old business. So the old business model was that you get together with an MBA.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was right. Old
Okay.
business.
I'll stay here for a
Okay.
minute.
So the old business model was that you get some MBA or someone who knows how to do great market research, and you research your market. For us, it would have been, the baby carrier industry or something like that. And they go research it, put together a bunch of figures about how big the market's going to be, how much money it's going to take up front, how you're going to market, all kinds of stuff like that. And you make a lot of assumptions about what the business is, how it will work. You assume that going through retailers will be a great way for you to go, or for us, going to boutiques would be a really great way, and then we'll expand from there. You assume that people will like this material. There's a lot of assumptions in the business model, and the old model was just go forward with the research, and the better the research, the better that it would be. But it could only get so specific. So baby carriers would only tell you so much about that market. And the problem with the old business model is that a lot of people will go forward with this, and they'll go get loans, they'll do whatever they have to do, banking on their assumptions, and they go out and spend a lot of money, go into a lot of debt, or borrow money from family, or take from their savings, however they do it. They spend a lot of money up front to get a large amount of product made. And then they put it out there only to find that their what they thought would work doesn't work. So you lose a lot of money, and you'd have to try and adjust after you've done that. So this book says basically you need, I think that's the next, wait. I don't know where you're at. Okay. So what the book teaches is basically that you test those assumptions with what's called a minimum viable product. You put together the smallest thing possible to test the assumption. So, for example, for us, when we decided to test our marketing strategy, or how we would distribute it, we thought, okay, boutiques is going to be the route that we're going to take. And so we went out and tried boutiques, and no one was very interested in what we had to offer. We tried going to these shows, the crafting shows, and like Elle said, no one would take it. And so luckily, we had just a few products, and we adjusted what we were doing. We adjusted after just a little while, because we weren't so stuck to a business model. We changed and started focusing on the social media, like Elle said. So the whole idea with it is that you have a minimum viable product, that you test your assumptions, and that you are willing to change when you learn new information. So, I'm not even going to look at that anymore. There are a few stories for us where that applied. We had, our website is a good one. We put up our website after we decided that this is going to be the route that we're going to take. We're going to do e-commerce and use social media to get the word out to people so that they'll come to us. We had a website built. Elle put the first one together, and she did an awesome job for never having done anything. But we didn't know anything about how websites worked, or conversions, or how simple it should be, having people flow through the website. And so we just put up a template and left it at that. But we soon saw that our conversions were pretty low for the industry. I shouldn't say pretty low. 2%, at least from everything that I have read, is a pretty standard amount for conversions from everyone that comes to your website. If you're converting at about 2%, you're doing okay. But we figured we should be able to do higher, because our people are coming from social media. They know our products better. They're not becoming educated on their website. They're coming already as an educated consumer from our social media. So we thought for us that was a low amount. So we redesigned our website, and looking at all the analytics, we were able to see, okay, this is where people go, this is where we lose them. Have any of you ever heard of Google Analytics Academy? It's this, you can go on there and they teach you how to use Google Analytics in a really good way. And so we went, and you're able to see where people abandon cart, you're able to see all kinds of stuff about the website. And we said, how can we fix these things to make it so that people won't be leaving our website? And we got together with our designer and our web developer and made changes, and our percentage jumped up to now we're averaging about 5 to 6% conversion rate, which is a lot better than it was before. So that was a big help for us, where we put out the minimum viable product. It was just something that we made, and then we were able to see, okay, here's where the problems are with this before we invested a ton of money into it, so that we were able to fix it and make it better with good information. Let's see here. Yeah.
Other stories.
What's that? A few other stories. Okay, so I'm trying to think of some. What were some?
Milkshake and the.
Oh, okay, yeah. So some that aren't related to us. Have you guys? There's this guy, a Harvard professor. He has a lot of connections to Provo and Utah and everything. But his name is Clayton Christensen. He wrote a book called How Will You Measure Your Life? And he's really famous for a few things, but one of them is his idea on finding what the value of a product is, and that goes along really well with the lean startup ideas. And he was asked to come to a fast food restaurant, and they asked him to find out how to increase the sales of their milkshake, because they felt like it would be a good thing to improve on. And so they went and they made the milkshake, they added more ingredients or better ingredients, all kinds of stuff like this that they thought would be what they needed. And then after a little while of checking it out, seeing what happened, the sales of the milkshake didn't go up at all. Sales stayed flat. Maybe they went up a little bit, but nothing to what they were thinking it should. And so they said, okay, what can we do here? So they went and started talking to people who were buying the milkshakes and saying, why do you buy a milkshake? And what they found I thought was crazy. They had two groups of why they bought milkshakes, and they came at two different times. One was in the morning. People would come and buy these milkshakes because they'd buy them in the drive-thru or whatever on their way to work, because they wanted something that would last for a little while, that would not be messy, that they could do with one hand. And so they said, okay, with this information, to me a milkshake in the morning sounds a little heavy, but I could see that. But so they took that information that they had gotten from people and said, all right, so let's change this. And before they had put too much money into trying to change the ingredients, change anything like that, they were able to change it, and they made the milkshake thicker so it lasted longer on the people's commute. They gave them a smaller straw so that it wouldn't come through as fast. And I think that they changed the size or something like that. And sales skyrocketed in the morning. But in the afternoon, it was still about the same. They're like, what's going on with the afternoon? Why isn't that happening? So they started interviewing people, and they found out that what was happening was people were coming, dads specifically. Sorry, I keep hitting this mic. But dads were coming after work, and they were bringing their kids there, and they'd felt bad all day for saying no to the kids about whatever it was that the kids had asked for that they couldn't have, and so they'd go there to get dinner, and instead of saying no to a milkshake, they felt like that was something that they felt good about. Okay, yeah, you can have this shake, and so they would get the shake. But the problem that they had was the milkshakes took too long to drink, because their kids would sit there forever and sit there sucking on this shake while they were waiting to go. And so they adjusted it for them, where they gave them bigger straws and made it easier to suck through for the later hours when the dads were coming to relieve their guilt. So that's a good model of communicating with, or a good example of communicating with your audience. And a lot of the businesses now.
And figuring out what problem your product solves.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's applicable to a blog or anything that you're doing. What problem am I solving, or what? It doesn't have to be necessarily negative, but what is this a solution to?
Yeah, exactly.
What is this doing?
That's such a good point. Yeah, his wording for it is, what were they hiring the milkshake for? The people in the morning were hiring the milkshake to entertain them, basically give them something to do on their way to work that was enjoyable. And the people in the afternoon, the dads, were hiring the milkshake to make them feel better about how they were parenting, I guess. I don't know. But, and so that's a good example, or a good thing to ask yourself when you're going through the process is, what are people hiring my product to do? And Elle will get a little bit more into that later on. Another example, there's this group called Startup Weekend. And it's a really fun thing where everyone gets to, you'll have designers, you'll have you done it? It's so fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. You'll have designers come, you'll have developers, you'll have entrepreneurs, and they all come together for one weekend and say, everyone presents ideas on what they're going to do, or these ideas that they have, and then everyone votes and narrows it down to however many ideas. My group was 10 that we did. And so we narrowed it down to 10 ideas, and then everyone split off onto those ideas and said, let's go and make these ideas work. And so we went out, and my group, what we did, you have one weekend to start a real business. And it's insane what these people are creating in just one weekend. My group, the original idea was to come up with a one-stop shop for people who are graduating from school to go and get work advice. But it sticks to the lean startup model. And so we went out to a college that was nearby. This is down in San Diego. And we went and interviewed everyone, which is a way to become educated on what the consumer is wanting. It's a great minimum viable product because it's free. You just tell people what the product is. That's about as minimum as you can get it, is telling the people what it is. So we went around and told people, this is what we're offering. Will you sign up for it? You want to get them to convert as quickly as possible, because if you just have like a focus group type thing where people are like, oh yeah, I would totally buy that, that's not very sound information because everyone thinks that they would do something, but then, or it's a good idea or whatever, but then when it comes down to it, they don't go for it, they don't convert, and so they don't buy it or buy into your brand or whatever it is. So you want to find out a way to get them to act on something. So we went around and said, we're going to charge you, what would be a fair price is what we asked the first probably 10 people that we interviewed. And they said, oh, I don't know, $50. So we went around to other people and said, okay, we're going to charge you $50 for this. Will you pay right now? And then and you can have access to it. We just and they're like, no, I'm not really interested in that. And that's when we got the real information from people, is when it came down to buying. You know, they're all on board. Yeah, that's super interesting. And we said, will you do this? And they said no. And we asked them why not. And they said, well, because we're already getting a lot of that from the school. And so what we're more interested in is one little aspect of what our website was going to be was mentoring. We were going to have mentors come together. And anyway, I think I'm taking a long time on this, but the point is that became what our whole business model was we became a mentoring website. It is pretty different from our original plan, but that's what we went with. And so then we went around and people were all on board because we said, hey, we're going to have mentors from Goldman Sachs or, you know, big marketing firms, whatever it is you're going into. We'll have mentors in your area that you can meet with and do this. And everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll pay whatever for that. To be able to have access to these people, I'm on board. So then we went around and talked to mentors and asked them what they would be willing to do. And obviously these are wealthy people. They don't care much about it. They just, they don't want the money. And so we had to figure out something they wanted. Doing it to be nice was something that, you know, they weren't too interested in. But to make a long story short, what they ended on was they were interested in doing it for the networking with other mentors so that they could have a strong network. So we made that part of our website. And then at the end, you go and talk to investors is how Startup Weekend works. You pitch your idea, and they were pretty into the idea. They went and talked to the person whose original idea it was and went from there. But anyway, real quick, just a few of the sites or things that I put up here. Optimizely.com is a great way to test resources because it's a really simple way to do A/B testing. It was something that I'm able to do. A/B testing is like where you'll put up two separate websites and it drives traffic it splits up the traffic however you want. So I said every time just do a 50-50 split. So anyone that came to our website went to either one or the other website, and I was able to track the conversions for whatever it was I was interested in. So whether it's final sales, if that's what I wanted to track, you're able to see how many people from this website ended up converting versus this one.
So the big one for us was he wanted to try a lengthier product description. We found that our conversion lowered when we had more text for our product description, which just seemed crazy for something that people research out so much, like a baby carrier. But actually, it's like they wanted to see tutorials, maybe find that on other pages, but they didn't want to read it in the product description. I don't know if that was distracting or what, but yeah,
that had a higher conversion rate. The other one that was really interesting is we put free shipping on it. I mean, that kind of makes sense, but we made one regular and one bold. And the one that had bold free shipping in the United States had I think it was a 6% higher conversion rate than the one that had free shipping and not bold. And then one last one, and then I'll turn it over to Elle. We tried it out where we did free shipping internationally. And what happened with that is our conversions bumped up 66% for international sales, which when we first were like, oh yeah, well, you know, we happened onto something good here. But then after we really dug into it, that was after several months of having, you know, following what happened. Then we checked it out, and we were paying more because we were paying duties, taxes, and shipping, which we have a good shipping company. They had us really cheap, but it still ended up costing us more. We didn't have high enough conversions to make it worth it, so we had to go back to just a flat model for that. But anyway, it's pretty interesting. Saves us a lot of money. But
you didn't talk about Moz?
Oh yeah, Moz.com is a great place to do. They have online marketing. They always have some of the best articles about how to do online marketing, SEO, stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, I talked about everything else, I think. Elle will talk about Iconosquare.
I might be over there a lot. Do you want to stand over there for
Yeah.
me for a minute? I made a lot more slides. I'm going to talk a little bit about growing and connecting your community. You know the first one. So the first question that I think you should ask about your community is why, not why. What is your community? Who is your community made up of, and why are they coming to you? So, but as far as the what, I don't know where I got this. Allison, did I get this from you? Three values. I'll take it.
It's definitely Allison.
I thought, what's the message that we're trying to communicate, and how can we narrow that down, especially using platforms that are so brief, and you have to be so concise. I wanted to make sure that our messaging was consistent, and so. I mean, you really could pull this out of your brand mission statement, or it can just be 3 words. And for us, that's nurture, inspire, and authentic moments in parenthood. And that's what we try to capture in our Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else that we are. I think that it's easy to get overwhelmed by trying to communicate. You know, sometimes it's just like, I just want to communicate all the good things to everybody, you know, and then it dilutes your whole message, you know? And so, or I get overwhelmed with like, oh, okay, well, there's a part of our family, you know, there's family lifestyle that's happening on our Instagram, and so should I be sharing this milestone or this? And, but really when it comes down to these 3 brand values, it really just simplified it enough for me to not worry about getting every current event or everything that's happening in our family, just making sure we're consistently sending this message to our community. So why is your community coming to you? What are they getting? Why are they there? For a while, I had like this pretty short phase where I got obsessed with how our Instagram looked. I took some social media class, and it was like, your Instagram is your gallery, and and she was the designer, so that makes sense, right? But for Baby Carry Company, we don't necessarily have the same goal there. And so I got obsessed with having just like all these beautiful images and making sure that everything fit. So I started posting less, and I started like going crazy with how they all look together and whatever. And I realized that actually our PR marketing person realized that engagement went down. I was driving her nuts too. And so we had a meeting, and with our creative team, we're just like, so why do people come? Why are people on our Instagram? Why do people want it? What are they expecting to see there, you know? And one of our team members said, it's not about, for Solly Baby, it's not about how it looks. It's not a design community. It's about how it feels. And with every brand, there's an aspect of how it feels. But with ours, it's so much more emotionally driven, because this is like it's an emotional time. People are pregnant and have babies and bear their babies, and it's just emotionally driven brand. And so I think that's important to ask yourself as we look at other businesses that, you know, we play with and whatever. We're just like, so why will people come into each platform? I think that each platform can be something different. Facebook is much more centered around, for us, like giveaways and articles, and it's not quite so much. Instagram, you just have to be so, it has to drive home that message so fast, and with so few words, and with one powerful image. Not that we always do that really well, but that's what we're trying to do. And then figuring out your brand voice. I learned this from Allison's really awesome online class. Well, not online class, I took it in person, about online. But just really honing in on what your brand's voice is. And the biggest revelation to me for that was, once you figure out your brand's voice, you can hire people to help you. And before that, you really can't hire good marketing help unless you're starting from the ground up and it's like a collaborative thing. But for us, it wasn't, you know, we're already years into it. And I just kept finding, it was like, no, I just couldn't hand anything over. And still, everything that happens and anywhere that sounds like it's from me, I've seen it and I've read it. I either wrote it or I edited it or something. But it's so nice to then have that support creatively. But until we really had that brand voice, and even in the beginning, I found when we've hired people on, like, oh, we really need to hone in this because they're not getting this part of it, you know, by copy that they'd send over or whatever. So So I think that's really important. And then what is next? Oh, be consistent. So I think that is how you, that's how it builds traction, is just the consistency that people know what they're going to get when they come to your Instagram or to your website or to your blog or to wherever it is. Keep it simple and add value everywhere. That is part of our kind of brand, maybe it's one of our brand mottos, I don't know. That wherever we are, we want to add value. I want to, even with different posts or blogs, blog posts, or anything that we do, obviously our product adds value, and we want to send that message in everything else that we send out to, that our brand it adds value to your life. And that doesn't always have to be a product. It can be that, it's part of an inspiration, it's an inspirational message for that day or something, but there's a takeaway every time. Our brand is not really about us. We want it to reflect back on to the community in a positive way. Create an editorial calendar. I think that's so key to not having breakdowns. So you're just not trying to reinvent the wheel every day, or like, what are we going to post today? What are we going to post today? If you just have a few, we always start with like the skeleton of like, okay, Tuesdays we do Tuesday tips, Fridays we do Friday flipogram, Wednesday we usually do Solly Baby announcements or something, and then it kind of gives a flow to your week, and then it's easy to kind of fill in those gaps rather than every day just fill in the time, pass, and not having anything up. That's obviously more specific to Instagram, but also we have an editorial calendar for all of our platforms. Oh yeah, wait, is this the next one? Disconnect. Yeah, disconnect. So I think that is really key. Our PR marketing person, who is so awesome, she just like wants to talk about it 7 days a week, and I realized that we have to.
She did all the marketing for Mars for NASA.
Oh,
just
yeah.
To throw that out there.
Our PR marketing person?
I thought it was so weird that Mars has its own.
I know, yeah, and then that we
marketing
hired
people.
her. We thought she could do a baby carrier brand, but she can. She's doing great. But I was just like, you know what? You need a day off. We need a day off to disconnect every week because I just think there's something cathartic in that. And then the next, I love this quote. I won't read it out loud, but it's from What About Bob? And I think that if you're using social media all for your business, it's so personal. It can be so draining. And so I think it's really, I think it's good to create systems, like, okay, I'm going to approach this many people this week about collaborations, or we're going to do this many blog posts, or this, or and to not emotionally invest until they're invested too, and then you can. Now I'm having all these Allison show. Allison, do you want to come teach us? If you like put the phrase to it, it's just don't invest in people who don't invest in you, something like that. And it's true that and I mean, I had realized that for years, where you just feel this kind of, I've seen so many businesses obsess over like who's collaborating with them, who's not, who they ended up collaborating with, what happened with this competitor, and it can absolutely drain you. And I've seen people quit businesses over things like that, and I totally understand it. I've been there, but I really feel like that's the way to overcome that, is by putting your head down, getting to work, and systematizing that, and only really emotionally investing in people once they have like agreed to collaborations or whatever. And if they don't, it's totally fine. Move on, and then. Yep, know your brand, then hire people. It goes back to knowing your voice. That once you really know people on the creative side, then once you know your voice, then you can hire people on the creative side. Be responsive. For us, that's a huge part of our brand, is being responsive to our customers. And I mean, I think that's just personally something that I really appreciate. And so I want our brand to be consistent with that. And like last Black Friday, we announced our sale, and it was like buy one, get one half off. We thought was it buy one, get one half off?
Yeah.
we thought people would be excited about it because a lot of times people are saying, yeah, I want two wraps, but I can't decide between 2 colors. I'm like, well, that will make it easy. And we had like huge backlash immediately, like, no, I already have one. I wanted to buy another one. And now I don't want 2 more though. I just wanted 1 more. So we're like, okay, Thanksgiving night, hold on. We like had a quick meeting. We're like, okay, never mind. This is the sale. And we put out, I think we kept that one, but we added another one. And then I feel like our moms felt so valued, that their voice was heard, and we felt really great about it too. And so yeah, I think that kind of responsiveness really, really is like the best way to connect yourself to your community. I still go through our hashtag and like respond to as many posts and pictures as I can, and I feel like that's a really great way for me to stay in touch with our brand. Find your edge through authenticity. So we can get really discouraged sometimes because some of our competitors are like really huge. They're like, their marketing budgets are like the size of our company. And that can be discouraging because we're just like, well, we can't play with money with these people. We can't pay people for stuff because we will lose that game. And for a quick minute, I was so discouraged by that. And I was like, well, what are we going to do? It's a losing battle. And not that we really try not to focus on our competitors until it's like really in our face. We're like, oh man, it gets a little political sometimes. But we just made a list of what do we have that they don't. Okay, we have a face to our company. Okay, and we started listing these things. And by knowing our strengths, it seems so obvious, but for us is like such a revelation that that was going to be how we would grow. And as we focus on those things, we just continue to grow. And there's a quote for the end. I love this quote by Coco Chanel. Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself, and I think that's right in line. I think it's the new way of marketing is authenticity. I feel like we have been sold so many things for so long. We're such a consumer generation that now we all want to be sold something that adds value to our life and it reflects our values. And you can feel that level of authenticity through your products. As like cheesy as that sounds, I think it's really true. I think that's how we make consumer decisions now. So it's how we consume. And I think that's it. We're going to open up for Q&A. If anybody has questions for us, I feel like we talked for so long.
Yeah.
How did you guys know when it was time to make your push?
To make the what?
Time to make your first hire. To go from YouTube to employees.
We waited
When we
way
fought
too
every
long.
day. It was based on that.
No, it was just like there are not enough hands here. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't work 40 hours a week in our office. I don't, and I'm totally okay admitting that. I work really hard, but I started this business so I could be with my kids, and that was the decision that I wanted to make. And I respect every woman's choice to configure their own configuration. But for me, that's what I wanted, and so we've built our business around that, and I'm sure that that's hindered growth at some points, but that's how we set it up. And so as soon as we didn't have enough hands, we knew that we needed somebody else. And
we had upgraded to a storage shed,
Yep.
and that's where we were
that
doing
was
it.
a good day.
And yeah,
Then it got hot.
yeah, no. But it was
Moved again.
it was really hard for either of us to do. We had at that point separated what we were doing, and it was hard for either of us to do everything that we were doing. I couldn't make enough boxes fast enough. Elle couldn't keep up with all the emails that she was getting, all that kind of stuff, and so.
And then I'm like, yeah,
obvious.
you know a lot more than how to make boxes. Like we have to get ourselves to the next step so that we can think about ideas rather than doing that every day. So it took us it was 2.5 years probably until we hired someone, which is a little bit insane, but yeah.
It probably should have been sooner, but I think we just weren't sure about, where's this all going, how's it going to work, and so. Once we did, it helped out so much.
It was
the business
crazy,
grew.
the growth
we
that
were
we had.
so much more relaxed.
Yeah.
And And
And
then
we hired like flex people, you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, we can I'm going to need you to help with customer service and returns and make boxes and help with inventory, like just really capable people that can do a lot of things.
And then back to the testing before you commit kind of a thing. We would hire, have people come on just for a little bit, like a Black Friday sale, and it was going to be crazy, and see how they liked it, see if it really helped us out. And so we just kind of test and see if it was what we wanted, if we were able to get the things done that we needed to, and then we always have kept the people on. But yeah.
What are some of your tips that you can give that have helped you, like things you've done to manage your growth?
To manage it, yeah, it's hard because people, it's a good thing to be sold out. It's a bad thing when you're sold out all the time. People, they're like, my baby's 6 months old now, like to get a wrap in this color. But, for us, we're just like, honestly, that was just, we're willing to take that risk of losing some business and having a little bit more controlled growth, because we just don't, like I said, we like to have our own, our quality of life is the most important to us, and that's just what we value more than the growth of the business. And so we don't want investors. That's basically it. We've had investors approach us, and we just thought it's just going to change the nature of it really quickly. And I know people have set it up in really nice ways, and it doesn't feel like that. But for us, we have problems with authority, so we knew that that's where we'd end up. So
A few concrete things that we've done too is, well, one, because we're an e-commerce site, it's not bad to, we can grow as fast as we can. So we never work too hard to, bring it in. But a few tools that we use to help us to grow was PayPal has a great thing if you're using PayPal.
working capital.
Yeah, where they'll go on and look at your sales for the last little while, and they'll approve you within a few minutes.
It's like the most dignified process ever, where you're just like, all of a sudden you have X amount of dollars in your account, and you didn't have to we've gone to banks and walked out feeling like we're the dumbest people alive, and after that we're like, yeah, they see that we're selling, we know what we're doing, and it's just a matter of, taking a percentage of that, and so.
And it was nice too, because they just pull it out of each sale a little bit, so that was one thing. Another thing that we've done to help fund any growth that we had is if we did get on back order, we would not just leave it as sold out. We would put it on back order and say this is when it will ship, so people know what they're going to get. We'll say, okay, this will be back in 2 months, or whatever the turnaround will be. And every time we've been able to fund that line by the back orders.
Saved us in the early days. We were like, yeah, we didn't even realize it was happening. It was like, whoa, they just, paid for our PO before it shipped. So.
Yeah. The ideal is to not sell out, obviously, but
all the time.
That's been a good thing for us. So that's what we've done with our growth, or a couple of things.
Yeah.
You were going to talk about Iconosquare?
Yeah. Okay. So Iconosquare gives you statistics on your Instagram. I can't really look at it too much because it gets too personal, right? You're like, what? They unfollowed me? But I do. It is really great for seeing hot times for posting and stuff like that. And for a while, we're like, okay, we have to post every day at this time. And then we realized, we looked at the next week, and it's totally different hot spots, and we're like, okay, actually, it's really just the weekends that aren't good, and everything else is pretty good for our brand. But I think that's totally relative to your demographic people.
It gives you great. That's
what that told me is moms are up all the time.
Yeah.
We never sleep. That's
it's
what
always
that told
funny
me.
to watch when sales come in, or when
we're all nursing all night.
you'll see likes all through the middle of the night, and you're like, okay, they're up nursing or up with their kid, just scrolling Instagram. That Iconosquare comes in nicely on my stuff too with the testing. So we've been trying to start for a little while this furniture business, and now we're just getting it really up and going. And so we got a factory and everything for it. But we're able to use things like that.
Me.
Yeah,
me
and one of my friends. We're able to use Iconosquare to really track. It gives you all kinds of great information about your following, so that you can make decisions off of that. It matters a lot because we're still trying to decide exactly what we want all the products to look like. we're using that to track a lot of the response, like to any image or anything. Or another thing that we're going to do that we haven't yet is you can put up, if you have a website, you can put up Facebook things, little ads, and they're cheap, and it will show you kind of the interest that people have in your company. This is like way early startup for any of you that are wanting to, looking for stuff like that. They'll click it, and that will be considered a conversion. People are interested in what you're doing, but we use Iconoscore just to look for information on everything. Yeah.
How do you manage your time, since you guys are both working for the business? How do you manage your time with your family and work and together even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our dates are just a lot of
do we
talking
do
about
that?
the business.
Yeah, write-offs every date night. It's a write-off. No, we just enjoy that. So we talk about a lot of other things too. We both have a lot of other hobbies, so we're able to not just talk about that. We've had all different kind of configurations. So like sometimes we had a phase where he would work the mornings and get the kids up and ready for school and drop off kids, get the baby down for a nap, and then I would go in early and work until that time, and then we'd swap out and he'd work until the early evening. And then, baby got older, doesn't take a nap or something. It's like, I feel like it's changing. Summer happened, So then we actually got a part-time sitter to come in so we could work together. And well, that was like a revelation to be able to talk together about the business and in the office, and that's been really helpful too. So then, it's just different. Every kind of stage, we just figure out a new way to do it that works for us.
But I don't think that there is an answer for that. It's like we're always just adjusting.
Yeah, it's like around a lunchtime, we're like, whoa, we need to go. Let's just all go to the beach or all go do something, because we just get so focused, and we can, honestly, you can tell on our kids that, okay, Mom, Dad, you need to take a step back. And so we try to pick up on those cues as quickly as possible and readjust them.
They're a great reflection of our stress, I think.
Yeah,
They reflect it nicely.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. What percentage of your sales are direct to consumer, like e-commerce sales, and what percentage of them are
Retailers.
Yeah, retail.
So that, I was going to say that about
Oh, yeah, sorry.
how much of our sales are e-commerce and how much retailer, wholesale, that kind of thing. So, and I was going to say that with managing growth, that for us to realize our retailers, at first it's easy to get excited about these retailers, and so, and you just feel like this is like the traditional way of going about it. This is how you get your brand name out there, and it is for tons of brands. But realize for us, where we're U.S. made and our margins aren't as good as some of these other companies. E-commerce is obviously your margins are better, but more than that, social media changed everything. They're finding us through us, and so not through businesses, and that's a really small percentage, and it's harder to grow when you have the slim margins, obviously. And so our percentage is probably we have like 30 something retailers. We have a waiting list of hundreds, and that we don't even look at, because we're just like, until it makes money for us, we like to be in different hot spots of the country and internationally. And otherwise, it just doesn't make us money, so we just can't focus our time there right now.
It's probably at least 85. It's about 85% of our sales come from our website.
Yeah.
So.
Any others?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out
Yeah.
and listening. It's so fun to talk.
Do we go now?
What?
Do we go now?
Yeah.